Hey, what is up, everybody? This is your boy AJTRIP, and welcome to That's a Shoot, my weekly episode show. What's going on in the world of professional wrestling? This week we're coming to you on a special day because yesterday I binge watched WWE Unreal Season 2, and I'm here to give you my review of it. Now I enjoyed Season 1, so we're gonna see if I enjoy Season 2. I've made some notes about certain things to talk about here, so let's go ahead and let's start right into it. Right, they go with number one, episode one was called No Days Off. Read my notes here. They start with Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. Dusty talks, Seth talks about how Dusty chose his next name. He does a Dusty impression. I guess everybody who was around Dusty can do a Dusty impression. I can't do a Dusty impression. I've tried many times. I tell you, baby, and just so I can't do it. Um, Becky says that she was burnt out in 2024, and she needs to take some time off. She talked to Triple H about it, and Triple H said, "Fine, because their contract coming up. She said, fine, we can talk about it when it's time to come back." And of course, she came back in early 2025. Um, they talked about how betrayal is the best way for a heel to turn. I forget who actually said this. I don't know if it was Michael Hayes or even Triple H, or maybe Seth Rollins. I don't know, but they talk about betrayal is the best way to get a heel turn, and I think that's correct. As we saw on Monday with Natty turning heel on Maxine, she betrayed her, and now Natty was a heel, and we see where they go with that. But I do think betrayal is the best kind of heel turn, right? I think you can turn heel for many reasons, right? The Drew McIntyre heel turn was pretty interesting. The way that he would, he turned heel and kind of blamed the fans. Same thing with Bret Hart. Bret Hart talked about, his wasn't betrayal, but his was his change of character. And he came out on Monday Night Raw talking about his fans all over the world. The American fans can stick it. That was very interesting. Um, so they talked about Lyra and Becky. They go into their relationship, how they met years ago, and then like that how Lyra was such a big fan of Becky and everything like that. Um, and so and that's going to be a storyline throughout this season. The Becky Lyra stuff gets really into it in episode 5. Bruce says that it's a pain in the ass to come up with backlash right after Mania. And I wrote down there, then don't do it. Guys, how many times on this channel has I said that WWE doesn't need to do a pay-per-view every month? Right? 6 would be perfect. 6, I think, would be perfect. I'll put this out here again. I said January, end of January is the Royal Rumble. Then you have the WrestleMania at the end of March, at the beginning of April, right? Not in the mid April, beginning of April. And then you have something like in Father's Day, a pay per view, whether you wanted to be the King and Queen of the Ring, or whether you wanted to be Money in the Bank or something else, right? You can do that. And then you have in August, you can do SummerSlam. Like at the beginning of October, you can do WrestlePalooza, since that's what you did, this past year. At the beginning of October, you can do WrestlePalooza, and then at the end of November, the weekend after um, um, Thanksgiving, you do Survivor Series, and that's 6. Then you brought back Saturday night's main event. That's cool. You have a Saturday night's main event here or there. You might not have a Saturday night's main event 4 times, once a season, right? To fill in those gaps, but in between those things, and of course you still got the 2 things that you do a year when you go to Saudi Arabia, right? The 2 events that you have to do in Saudi Arabia. So you have those. You can have those go out down as well. So I don't see why you're forcing yourself to do something that you don't need to do. You don't. Not anymore. Um, kind of strange. Triple H said that Pat McAfee is the face of the WWE. And that's because Pat, I guess Pat is everywhere. Pat, he's on ESPN all the time. He does all this other stuff he does. He does stuff for WWE. And I think they said that he'll be back next Monday when they in there in Toronto or something. So, yeah, that's kind of interesting. He would say Pat McAfee is the face of WWE. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he meant that literally or if he just meant that as in a way of that when you see Pat McAfee, you can recognize him from the WWE. Or if you see him and you recognize him from something else and he's on WWE, then you watch Pat McAfee. Maybe that's what he meant, but it was kind of a very strange thing. So they were talking about Pat McAfee because they were going into what Gunther could do after WrestleMania. Obviously getting beaten by Jey Uso at WrestleMania. So they come up with the Pat McAfee thing. Pat McAfee, but they showed the boardroom meeting where they were actually giving thought of having Pat McAfee beat Gunther, and they said it would be a good, it would give Gunther more of a character and have him be able to come back more dominant. Where he's just now because he lost to Pat McAfee. It's one thing to lose to Jey Uso, an actual wrestler, but to lose to Pat McAfee, an announcer, now he goes on this massive tear, and some people are like, well, but I can't believe they was actually giving thought to that. They showed the match. They had the match, and from Pat, and they said it was good. And Pat thought it was good. Pat, he hasn't wrestled in a long time. He was worried about his thing. Even Triple H backstage has said, "Hey, if you're running out of breath, things like that, just give the referee use on the hand, and they'll, and Gunther will go around and he'll play the crowd to get you your air, which is great. This is the reason why I like Unreal. Is because you're getting some of the inside stuff of things to let you know what they do, right? While we getting the things of in the first season how we get the Jey Uso not the Jey Uso but the John Cena heel turn, we go into depth in that, and I think this season we get into Seth Rollins' rules of the century, right? Well, some of that stuff is fine to listen to, and it can be interesting. This is the stuff that I like. I like it's the bits and pieces of the thing to let you know that if you need a break, grab this person's hand. It's showing me how the sausage is made, kind of. Even though I wouldn't want to know how the sausage is made, but in this situation, I kind of do. So see, I like that. That's stuff I kind of like. And Pat felt he had a good match. Everything, and you can see behind the scenes, Triple H, Paul Levesque, he was producing that match from the back, and he was talking to the referee in his ear and everything, and he was so it was a lot. And one time, when what's his name had the choke on Pat, and he told the ref to tell Pat to get up and mark up, and exactly what it is. He got up, he fired up, and they got the crowd up. Triple H knows what the fuck he's doing. He really is. You may not like some of the decisions he makes, or some of the people that he associates with, or anything like that. You may even think that maybe he's, he may be a little bit too much into himself. Him and Stephanie. Right? Because they're always over the place, always introducing things and everything like that. But here's the one thing I say you can't say about Triple H. He doesn't know. He knows what works in this business, and that he's been around it for so long, and he's seen it for so long, and he's learned under people who did it before him best. That he knows what's happening, so he knows what was gonna happen. So that's some good stuff here. Yeah. So you got that. And then to get into the Becky Lynch Lyra Valkyria match at Backlash. They thought it was good. They had a great match. I have here. She didn't win the Raw title. I guess I have here. I was writing really fast. I was trying to do two things at once, so I may not have. A lot of this stuff may be chicken scratch. But pretty much Becky and Lara had a great match, and they were going to continue the series throughout the year. Episode 2, The Truth. This was one I was looking forward to. They were talking about R-Truth and what happened with him. Road Dogg did a lot of his matches under the influence when he was wrestling. So, and he credited Truth for helping him get sober. Calls Truth his best friend in the world. Road Dogg was doing stuff from Memphis, and that's when he got introduced to Truth, who was working down there. They even had some video of Truth working with Jerry Lawler, believe it or not. So that was very interesting. And then Road Dogg, he brought him from Memphis up to WWE. They were all together. They were on the road together, and that was cool. And they talk about Truth, they get into Truth, and it talks about Cena and Truth happening at Saturday Night's Main Event. Apparently, Cena and Truth were like backstage there tight as well, and it was all over these things. They had stuff from Rhea Ripley, they had stuff from Cody Rhodes about Truth and how just a fun, good person that he is. And this is the one. I think Cody even says at one point, he's a guy that you don't get rid of. I don't care how much money he's making, you don't get rid of him. And that's what I think. That's what I said. Back when it happened. Back in June, right? I said, Truth is like a WWE lifer. There are some people that maybe you have to let go, maybe you don't have to go right. But when it comes to like 20, 25 years for some of these guys who are coming up, right? And coming up for them, Truth, one of them, Miz is another. Like, these are WWE lifers. Whatever they're paying, you pay it. And I've said this before. I think Miz is, he's got so much stuff that Miz can do. Because then not only could Miz, still do what he needs to do to get over. Because that's his point right now. He's there to get some of the other people over, because he has his innate ability to stay heated and get the heat that he can get, and then have the babyface beat him so that he can get the rub off from him. He's got that right. So that's his goal right now. I know he's probably said several times he would love to get back to the top, and I would actually love to see Miz back at the top, but I don't believe that will happen, unfortunately, because we've got so many new stars. Now, again, I wouldn't be surprised if Miz would win another championship. Another heavyweight championship, and then lose it 2 weeks later, like he did the last time when he beat Drew McIntyre and then lost it to Bobby Lashley. I can see them doing that again as well, but I don't think he's going to have a long extended run with the championship of any time. None of the two main heavyweight championships, unless there's a rash of injuries. Road Dogg has trouble pitching stuff to Cena about Cena and Truth for the Saturday Night's Main Event, and that also leads to a heated discussion between Road Dogg and Triple H about Cena with the Truth. Because at one point, Truth said he wanted to shave his head, and Triple H was like, "Well, why does he want to shave his head?" Road Dogg was going, "I don't know. He does just what he wants to do. He wants to shave his head." And I think later on in the show, later on in the episode, Truth says that the reason why he wanted to shave his head because he was going bald. If he was going bald, that's why he wanted to cut his hair and shave his hair. But yeah, then there's a huge discussion about that. They do the Saturday Night's Main Event stuff, and he's got, and he says that everything was, there in the match and everything was fine. Cody says that the WWE needed Truth. They needed our Truth, and that's something. Cody, who's a major player, says that he needs our Truth. So Triple H comes back and he said that basically he says they tried to play chicken with truth. You know, hoping that, basically saying, hey, we are not going to renew your contract. And he was hoping that they would come back and say, hold on, wait a minute. And then they would come back to a spot where they would renew the contract. But instead, Truth went out on Twitter and said that he's been released from the company. And Triple H says that was never the case. He was never released. Truth just, Truth took that as saying that he was being released. And then we had the entire shitstorm. They had all of the TikTok videos, the YouTube videos, the Twitter messages, the social media things about Truth and just everything like that. And show you how so much of a loved person that he was backstage. And it was amazing. So he was never fired. And what they do is they take that from our Truth and they turn it into Naomi. And then we get into the Naomi storyline. And Naomi doesn't want to get too much far into it, but we know the story. We know the drift that Naomi and Sasha Banks 4 years ago walked out on the WWE because they were going to be part of a 6-pack challenge to see who would be the #1 contender for Ronda Rousey's championship. I believe that's what it was. And they didn't like it. They felt like as tag team champions they should be working tag team titles, right? Trying to get the titles to where they are right now, where it's the WWE Women's Tag Team titles are a big thing because you have 2 big stars holding it. You got two big stars in Naomi and Sasha Banks holding them 4 years ago. Why not do it then? So we get that whole thing and they left. She doesn't get too much far into it. It was hard. It was only. They only talked about Sasha Banks in the way of that she was Naomi's tag team partner. They didn't talk about if she had the influence she had on it, if anything was like that. So that's interesting. I would like to see them go into that. I know that, listen, her name's not Sasha Banks over there in AEW. It's Mercedes Moné. And they may want at some point to have Sasha Banks come back. And maybe if they tell the story, tell the truth, maybe she doesn't come back. But you're better, to be honest with you, you're better off without her. You're better off without her. As much as I, like anybody, would love to see the 4 horsewomen fatal 4-way match at a big premium live event or at an Evolution or something like that. I would love to see that. I just don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. I think we've heard stuff about Bayley and Bayley's either going to leave or Bayley's going to go backstage. I think Sasha's friend over there, Charlotte Flair with herself as well, Becky Lynch. They're not spring chickens anymore. So yeah, we don't know how much longer we're going to have the ability to do a 4 horsewomen match. So I just think it's just probably best off just to go ahead and start and talking about her, but they didn't. So they go into that, and then they go into the whole stuff of bringing Truth back and talking about how Truth is going to come back and Truth returning and everything like that. And they kept it a secret from the only one people knew who's going to know. He said at one point, "I'm going to tell Logan and Jay because they need to know," and he didn't tell Logan and Jay because everything was just so, interesting and everything like that. So that's what that. And then they leave off with the thing where Truth cuts his braids off. And you remember that night when he was cutting his braids off, the crowd was saying, "Holy shit," chanting "Holy shit," right? So before I go on to episode 3, let's talk a little bit about this. Do I feel that they fumbled R-Truth, bringing him back? In a sense, yes. In a sense that they fumbled R-Truth because I think some people would have liked to have seen R-Truth in a more serious manner. Um, being more like what he was for those first couple months. Those first couple months, he was insane, and that's really what started the Damian Priest, um, Aleister Black feud. Is that Truth was they were Truth and Aleister Black were kind of beefing, and then Damian was like, "Hey, calm down, man. That's Truth." And then they started their shit. So, and then of course, when Cena turned heel, Cena turned back babyface. R-Truth went back to being uh, crazy, goofy R-Truth. Um, so maybe they did. Maybe they could have got a good run out of him, or something like that. Maybe he could have been, you know, something like that. Who knows? Episode 3, Division. Of course, this is about starting off the vision of the future of the business, and we, of course, this should be about Seth and his crew, but we also get some stuff about Penta, and we talk about how Penta was growing up, um, the challenges that he faced, and then the stuff that he was going on. Michael Hayes says that Penta was the kind of wrestler that WWE didn't have. So maybe they needed Penta because he was over with the crowd and everything like that. They also go to Chelsea Green. Talk about Chelsea Green and they talk about with Penta because they had I guess a very famous match in Lucha Underground where she wrestled Penta. They had some clips of that from that. I guess it was a great match. And Chelsea says that we talk about them doing it again, but they're not going to do it in WWE. They're not going to do competitive intergender matches, in WWE anymore. For the most part, where the 120-pound woman is competing with the 215-pound man. That's not going to happen. But I think with Cesaro, not Cesaro, Tozawa. How did I get Cesaro from Tozawa? Wow. But like Tozawa, he might be the only one. Maybe Tozawa. Yeah, I think right now, only Tozawa be the only person that went because he had a match a couple years ago with Rhea Ripley. And Rhea Ripley's bigger. She weighs more than him, and she's bigger than him. So they're trying to say that could work, but I don't think you're gonna see another intergender match in WWE. Where it's supposed to be a true competitive, type of thing. She has questions about motherhood and wrestling. She wants to have a child, but she doesn't know if. But right now she feels like she's on the best run, and she doesn't know if she wants to give that up right now to have kids. But she doesn't feel like, but that's what you do. When you have kids, you take away from your life for your kids' life, and that's what she wants to do. So she has so many questions about that. But she's got some people there that she can talk to. She can also talk to Becky. Who else is a mother? Candice LeRae is a mother. Naomi's going to be a mother. She can talk to Naomi. There's a lot of other women there. Not a lot, but I think there's a few others that maybe has kids and also, is doing the wrestling thing. So they did the thing where they were gonna put the title on Zelina Vega, and Chelsea was, well, she understood. She didn't particularly care for it because she wanted to have a kind of a nice run with it, but they gave it to Zelina Vega, but that was okay. And then even Road Dogg, once again, he had a tense season, and another tense argument with Triple H about Zelina Vega and Chelsea Green, because they were coming up on that Saturday Night Main Event where Zelina Vega was going to win the championship, was going to defend it against Chelsea Green. And when Triple H was like, okay, well, if we put it back on on Chelsea, who does she have to do? She's going to be the baby faces. The baby faces that she's already beat: Michin, B-Fab, Zelina Vega, right? And then there's the other ones, the Alexa Blisses and the Charlotte Flairs and Tiffany Strattons and things like that. That she can't beat them. So what do you do? So it's better to keep it on Zelina because she's got the heels to do it. So I think that was interesting. But you know, tense argument with Paul. I can see maybe why Road Dogg was taking off. Road Dogg seems that he might be a little bit of a trip to work with. So in that night events, she broke her nose, and she doesn't know how many times she has broken her nose. The only thing she knows is that the doctor told her that if the nose breaks one more time, they're gonna have to have surgery on it. So one thing about this episode, they were talking about, I guess when it came to the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, because the men's Money in the Bank ladder match is when the vision starts to really come together, because he wins Money in the Bank, Seth. The backstage personnel were having more fun than the fans did with that match. When someone was coming down, they were, ooh, and they were jumping around, they were having so much fun. So here's a part that I did enjoy. And this also might give you an insight as why maybe LA Knight isn't deemed to be the guy just yet. As some fans would want him to be deemed the guy, maybe he's the guy. So the finish of the match was supposed to be Seth climbing up the ladder, LA Knight climbing up the other side of the ladder. They, when they're fighting, and LA Knight punches Seth off of the thing, leaving him there to grab for the thing, and the crowd's gonna get excited because it's LA Knight, and then he's grabbing the thing, and then Seth was gonna pull him off, kick him, give him the stomp, climb up, and get the briefcase. But that didn't happen. And everybody from who was the thing? Who was it? Was it Chris Park? I think it was from Chris Park to Bruce Pritchard to what's his face? Triple H, even Seth Rollins. They were all upset at how the match went and ended because it didn't go the way that it was supposed to go. And even afterwards, Paul had a little bit of talking to with LA Knight. And said, "Yeah, we're supposed to do this and this and this and this." And so, if you can't do the things that you can do, that you need to do, I mean, can you really be a top guy, right? For whatever you may think about Jey Uso, and sometimes it's way too far going into the hate territory. As I called it a couple weeks ago, the JDS, the Jey Uso derangement syndrome. It goes too far. I never saw anything like that with Jey Uso where he just, where he just completely flipped out and fucked up a finish in the match. LA Knight fucked up the finish of the Money in the Bank ladder match. Period. End of story. So they also talk about, Paul Heyman thinks Penta is it. He was up there in the creative meeting and he was talking about Penta. He thinks Penta has it. So I think that's something coming from Heyman is saying like that. They go over the Cena and Punk match from Night of Champions, and they even go over the legendary legendary bump from Cena, and even backstage he was like, "You good?" "Yeah, I'm very good." So it was all good. So and then they talked about that, and they have that go right into episode 4, in which it's called Performance Art. And this is not really where we're going to get into the whole ruse of it all. Paul Heyman doesn't like Unreal because he grew up in the business where you protected the business. where you protected the business and you protected about what it was and what it was and what it is, right? And you didn't do all of this stuff that Unreal is doing. Unreal is not only just having you talk about what went down. He's talking, we're seeing behind the scenes several times in this 5 episode documentary. Did we see the two people who just had the match backstage shaking hands or hugging or anything like that or talking about it? So I think that's what turns some of that off. Turns off by some people. Some people doesn't, they're not big fans of that. Um, I understand why. I myself have said that very, I am very split on whether kayfabe being dead is good or bad for the business. I think it's good for the business because then you get things like it being on ESPN, a legitimate sports network, 7 WWE on it, putting WWE on their on their morning shows and throughout the day, and at nighttime when it's Raw or SmackDown or a premium live event, they're showing a recap of it and reporting on it as if it's like the national championship game. They're doing all of that. So and you wouldn't do that if you were still trying to pretend as if professional wrestling was legitimate competition and it wasn't scripted. But then again, on the other side, as I just mentioned with Jey Uso and LA Knight, if kayfabe is still alive, then you're not carrying the fact that LA Knight is not getting the push that Jey Uso is getting. You're just caring about, and you probably don't care that you quote unquote believe that Jey Uso is a good wrestler. In fact, you probably think Jey Uso is probably a great wrestler because he's winning all the time. And that's what matters. Jey Uso, the babyface, is winning. He's beating the heel. And, you're not worried about, matches and star ratings or anything like that. All you worry about is babyface beating the heel up. Is he getting revenge on the heel? And I think that sometimes that can, so I think it's one of those things where it can be good and it can be good and being bad. Talking about the death of kayfabe. Anyway, let's get back to this episode 3. So Paul Heyman tells the story after they ask him, is a work beneficial or is work, for professional wrestling? And he talks about how in ECW the Sandman, was doing the thing with Tommy Dreamer, where Tommy Dreamer put the cigarette in his eye, Singapore caned him in his eye, and he talked about being blind, and he didn't go, he didn't leave the house for 6 weeks until he showed up at the ECW arena, going to retire, and then took off all of the eye protection and realized, so that everybody that he could see. He talked about how when that happened, that got people interested. And that's how the work happens in professional wrestling. Interesting, very interesting story. I thought he was going to tell the Tommy Dreamer story about me. Thank you, sir. May have another, but that's here for another day. So we get into Jelly Roll. You're talking about SummerSlam, Jelly Roll, and all the stuff that he liked about professional wrestling, and all the stuff that he wanted, and he needed to lose weight and everything like that. So, yeah, that was very interesting. At least I found it very interesting. So now we're getting to the Saturday night's main event, right? We're getting to the Saturday night's main event. And this is the one where Seth is going to hurt his leg. They're going to do the whole leg. Paul Triple H tells Cody about this because he feels like since Cody is the number one guy, he should know. But really, the only people who knew was Paul Heyman, Bobby Roode, who's the producer, him, Cody, and Seth. And Seth was want to know, do they even need to tell LA Knight? And Paul said, listen. If I was doing this and I didn't tell you that we were doing this, you would be pissed off. And you would be pissed off and wondering what the hell is going on. And Seth apparently, stopped a couple beats and said, "Yeah, you're right." so they told LA Knight, and they didn't tell the ref, just the car. They didn't tell. They told the doctors, because the doctors, they're the ones that if something was really happening, they're the ones that tell them to end the match. So they need to tell the doctor, and they did the whole thing where he told them like that, and then they went into the band 1, 2, 3, and then they had Seth being carried out. And I really thought that was very interesting too. So that was some good stuff. So then they go into Io Sky, and they get a little bit about her. They talk about her time on the road and to Evolution, where she was going to face Rhea Ripley. They were doing like that. Evolution was also going to have the triple threat in the Continental match, and Becky felt real bad about taking Bayley's spot at the WrestleMania. Bayley wasn't having it. She said, "Don't take handouts. It is what it is, and it's fine." Apparently even the day of the WrestleMania, Becky Lynch went to Triple H to pitch Bayley being put back in there, because she felt so bad for Bayley not, for taking Bayley's spot. But I think they went the right way. Bayley's a big girl. She knows it, and I think that Bayley's going to have a big spot at this next WrestleMania coming up in a couple months. He's going to be a big part of it in some form or fashion. So then, we talk about Io Sky in the match with Rhea Ripley. Michael Hayes calls Rhea a badass bitch. Now, he didn't call her that, sure, but what he said was that the reason our fans love her is because she's not a down-home sweet girl. Our fans love badass bitches, and that's what Rhea Ripley is. So that's what he said. And we go into the whole Evolution match and the main event with Io and Rhea. And one thing I did like as well is that we kind of show about how they were going to do the spot where in the crowd where she jumps on Rhea, and the only thing they were worried about was that making sure that Rhea didn't hit her head on the concrete. So that's what everybody was worried about. But they did. You can see it's like a piece of like raised carpet that you put there just for that spot. So that was interesting. But you do the match, and Naomi cashes, and everything goes off perfectly. Michael Hayes, he's so happy he went off so good. He says, "Take that, motherfucker." He's insane. And we end episode 4, the performance art episode. It ends with Naomi winning the championship and everything like that. But again, everybody's happy for Naomi because she gets it, including Jade Cargill, who early in that evening she just had a brutal no-holds-barred match where she even got busted open on her nose by Jade Cargill. But we're seeing backstage that they're doing the right thing. And again, I can understand why some of the older timers don't like it, because hey, even some of the newer folks may not like it. We know it's not legitimate competition. We know that it is scripted. We know that it is all of this. We know that they don't, for the most part, hate each other in real life, right? But we still want to fall into that suspense of disbelief. So they're like, hey, those motherfuckers really hate each other. So I get that why some fans are turned off by Unreal. Again, I for the most part like the show, especially when they go into some of the minutiae stuff of doing this and doing that. So the last episode, episode 5, was the pop. So and throughout this, there was a couple of times, including one at the beginning, where we heard Vince's commentary. We also saw Vince doing when they were talking about the work in episode 4. Vince getting into the limo and being blown up. Even though he was not named, I think we get 2 videos and that one like audio clip of Vince in this in this thing. And I'm now starting to get on board with some of the conspiracy theorists who say that Vince McMahon will be back at some point in WWE on WWE television, and I'm starting to think that maybe that is the case. Oh yeah. Anyway, we go back to Jelly Roll. The day of SummerSlam, Jelly Roll, he wants to lose. And he goes over the match and how the match is going to do in some of the spots. And he calls it, he wants to go heels up. So I wonder if that's one of those industry terms, right? That they use in the industry where you go and so he goes, well, what do you want to do tonight? I think it should be heels up. Now whether heels up means that the heels are the ones on top. The heel wins, if that's what that means, or if that means that like the finishing move, and then because when you hit your back, maybe your feet go up, your heels up in the air. I don't know, but I think it could be either one. The first one probably sounds more correct. When you say heels up, I mean that just means that the bad guys are going to win. So I found that interesting. And then we go through them talking about the finish of the century, the roots of the century, the roots of the century. And they talk about that. It went off everything with a fast. Triple H thought it was epic, an epic night one for SummerSlam, including with the finish with the cash in. Thought everything went off fine. Let's see. We talked a little bit about Cena's run and his match with Cody Rhodes. They were talking about that in the thing, and so what they had basically, what it seems like they had planned on doing was Cody beating Cena at SummerSlam, and then Cody being beat up by somebody. John Cena would save Cody Rhodes, and then that's how he would turn back babyface. However, Cody Rhodes got the thing for Street Fighter, and he needed to go off and film for Street Fighter. So what they decided to do was do that promo on SmackDown a couple days before the match, and so that's why John Cena turned heel so quick, turned face so quick, because Cody needed to go film Street Fighter. So now we get to the Intercontinental title match at SummerSlam between Lyra and Becky. What did I? Do I have my thing? What did I? It's over here probably, right? Yeah. So if I go back to SummerSlam, I gave the women's IC match 5 stars. I gave it 5 stars. I enjoyed the hell out of that. I really did. So now when you look at, but see, I was just watching as a fan. No, I didn't know that like her hands had slipped out of the zip ties. I did know that, but there were a couple of things that I also didn't know. It just started off bad, right? Lyra says that she was backstage and she just felt like and she wasn't in it. There was something happening, wasn't it? And even though when she was walking down the aisle, usually she can get up for it, and she just said she just wasn't up for it. She just wasn't in the right headspace. So the first mess up was Lyra threw Becky into the photographer who was at ringside taking pictures of them, and she apologized for it. And it's incredible. So, then the zip ties come off, and instead of Lyra just, saying, hey, they're off, she tries to put them back on. She does put them back on. Then when it came time for the spot to get them cut off, she couldn't get them off. And there was also a spot where I think she was, Becky Lynch was gonna put her into a chair, and then run her against the thing that holds the IC title. Lyra was supposed to block it, turn it around, and have Lyra Becky go into it. She took the bump, and people actually, oh god. And TJ, who was the producer of the match, he wasn't that great off. So she was really upset. Lyra was at how the match went. She really thought it was not good. It wasn't great. It just didn't happen. Everything like that. She was apologizing to Becky. Becky said, Lyra told Becky, scream at me, do something. And Becky's like, no, I'm not going to do that. But I'm glad that's what you want, because that means that you want to be great. And she said that she will be great. And I think you're right. I think Lyra will be great. I think Lyra, she may have had trouble. She doesn't seem to have trouble getting over. She has a little trouble maybe staying over. It does seem like every now and then the crowd should do something in a match or a segment or something like that, and the crowd pops and starts chanting for her and everything like that. But then, like, a couple weeks later, it's like, then it's back to being, kind of just, oh, it's Lyra, yay. So, yes, Lyra, so, that is. But she was really down about the match. And then we go into the whole Cody Rhodes, John Cena stuff at the end. The match, very good. And then they end episode 5 with the return of Brock Lesnar. And that's a little tease for season 6. For season 3. Season 3 is coming very soon later this summer. And it's going to go into the entire Cena last run. So that one will be interesting to see. I'm talking about the entire Cena run. So that would be good. All in all, I thought this was okay. I thought this was an okay documentary. So I thought season 1 was great. This one was just good, But I enjoyed what I saw. I didn't have any kind of things, anything like that. I know there are going to be some people who don't believe when they go into the rules. They're not going to believe that what they were saying. And that's a little bit on them, a little bit on WWE. WWE doesn't care what people out here think. Yes, there was a report that he heard from somebody that they were going to do an injury angle. And because of that, people disbelieved. But without question, for like the first few days before that report came out, people were believing that Seth Rollins had injured himself. It was. That's what it was. So we're gonna get to Cena's last run. I think I'm hoping that we do get a couple of things, a couple other things, not just the entire thing being about the Cena run, but I do hope we get to talk about some other things that went down during this time. I don't know why they didn't cover the Jey Uso stuff, because again, like I said, the fact that he only held the title for 51 days was a crime. It was a crime. The Goldberg Gunther match did not beat the World Heavyweight Championship. It did not. And you could have had Jey Uso done the same thing that Gunther did. Jey Uso could have went to SummerSlam, faced CM Punk, lost, and you done the thing of the century. But whatever. That's the past. Alright, y'all. Post your comments down below. Tell me what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about WWE Unreal Season 2. Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you Was you about it? Let me know down in the comment section. Let me know what was your favorite part, what was your worst part, everything like that. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. This is your boy, AJTRIP, signing off. As always, be good to each other, y'all. Be careful out there. And I am out.